All right, this is Mr. Patrick Bowman, who has a master's in psychology and is a licensed professional counselor, I believe.
Yes, ma'am, I am licensed
All right.
professional counselor and board certified professional Christian counselor.
Okay. Can you tell us a bit about your education?
Yes, ma'am. My undergraduate education was at Xavier and Loyola in New Orleans. Graduated from there in 1979 and went to graduate school at Cornell in Ithaca, New York for a year. Got a chance to be in class with Yuri Bronfenbrenner and Sandra Bim, a couple of classes with her. Daryl Bim, her husband. Interesting experience. But I was interested in clinical psychology, and that was the Department of Human Development and Family Studies. So I called Dr. Rick McWhirter by phone, and I was dating a young lady at the time here, not the wife, my wife that I married, who actually is a former student of mine, who, as a graduate student, I was teaching psychology, and she took the class. And subsequent to the class, we started dating. But about my education, again, a year at Cornell in Human Development and Family Studies, and called Dr. Rick McWhirter about my interest in coming home. I'm originally from the area, so came and attended USL, and basically starting in 1980, and got an applied degree in applied psychology, graduate degree in applied psychology in 1984. Took me a little while. I was working part-time. I did my my practicum at Tyler Mental Health in adult services, and I also worked on the inpatient unit, which was also part of my practicum. And it just so happens that I, for me, became a born-again Christian and had the offer after doing some evangelism to go to Bible school by a local church. And they paid for my education, so I went to Harding University School of Biblical Studies, intensive 2-year program where 4 years were packed into 2, and finished that and came back and started doing some campus ministry work here at the university, and at the same time working with the local church, and went to the Harding Graduate School of Religion, took short courses in their graduate program in School of Divinity. So my background is psychology and biblical studies.
And when did you become part of the faculty in the psychology department?
I became a member, I was an adjunct faculty member in 1991. I taught my first class as a graduate student in 1980 for a couple of years, but I've been teaching consecutively for 30 years. I started as an adjunct faculty in 1991, and I became full-time. I was teaching an intro class. I've taught intro back then, intro and adolescent psych. And I was doing the adjunct faculty work part-time and was doing some full-time ministry work. In 2001, a position came available full-time. And so I've been teaching full-time now 20 years. But in terms of postgraduate teaching, 30 years, 10 years adjunct, and then 20 years full-time here at as a part of the faculty. USL and now UL.
Excellent. What courses do you typically teach?
Right now, teaching child psych and lifespan development. I've also taught intro, 370 behavior modification, and 312 adolescent psych.
Okay. Tell us about your counseling practice. Is there a framework that guides your counseling?
Well, I would say probably cognitive behavior therapy, probably in general, but I consider myself pretty eclectic. I also do a lot of what I call psycho-spiritual counseling. Even when I was engaging in work for the state, I've coordinated a couple of clinics. I coordinated the Opelousas through Tyler Mental Health Center. Formerly Acadiana Mental Health Center. I was actually working at Acadiana Mental Health Center when Dr. Tyler was, when he was killed back then. And I was actually off that weekend and was actually scheduled to work crisis. And had I worked crisis, I would have probably seen the person who actually wound up killing Dr. Tyler. But it became Tyler Mental Health Center.
Mhm.
And I have done a lot of inpatient work back then. I have done some pastoral counseling. Dr. Val, at one time I had 5 jobs, believe it or not. I am at the minimum in terms of work, whereas now I teach here at UL and I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor with the Acadiana Family Tree. But when I had 5 jobs, I was teaching here, doing marriage counseling for Behavioral Counseling Center, working as a pastoral counselor at the Acadiana Addiction Center, Acadiana Recovery Center, and teaching one class at SLCC. So, but my background in psychology here at UL and the biblical studies training allowed me to work at those various sites. And like I said, a pretty eclectic cognitive behavior therapy, I think, is probably the route I've traveled the most, but also include the spiritual, psycho-spiritual element as often as I can, particularly with people from this area. At one point in time, I was working with the chronically mentally ill. And basically, I had a very, very large caseload. Believe it or not, I had a caseload of 300 clients.
No.
300 clients. Some I would see every 3 months. Some people I would see every 2 weeks, some every other month. But now I consider that to be a very hairy situation. And, thankfully there were some people who were stable on medication, but not a whole lot of counseling could be done at that time. But one of the things that you asked me in terms of my, what I incorporate, even related to some of the clients when they were on medication and they would tell me problems, if there was nothing else that I can give them, at least I could offer, even some people might consider this a little bit, maybe something they wouldn't do, but even if I asked them if I could pray for them, and if I uttered all the things that I heard them say and bring that before God, at least they know that I heard them, I care about them, and even if there was nothing specific that I could do, even though I did what I could, we could at least pray about it, and you can know that you're heard and that I was listening, and we're inviting a higher power if they are receptive to that. But I would say cognitive behavior therapy otherwise would be the most primary mode.
And your experience here at UL, which is very diverse, what's your favorite part of what you do?
I've always desired to teach on the college level. I had a tough decision to make because I was involved in ministry and didn't know whether or not I wanted to teach full time. But it was a dream of mine. It was something that I wanted to do. I remember meeting with, I guess the first person I talked to at the time was Dr. Garrett, Dr. Golday, and a few other people. And but my favorite thing is, I guess I've got it in terms of counseling as well as teaching, a generative spirit where I desire to give back whatever it is I can of my experience, and to have an audience that's receptive, that wants to learn, and to see eagerness on the part of the student and thinking that I'm also supplying them with some information that will be beneficial for them in the future. And that's in some respects why I like teaching developmental psychology courses, because in my mind, outside of an intro class, a lifespan development class, because we're covering physical, cognitive, social, and emotional aspect of development from even prenatal
Mhm.
information all the way to late adulthood and death and dying. So in my mind, cover the whole gamut. So I like that aspect of being able to present developmental aspects, physical, cognitive, social, emotional aspects, and sharing with them something that I'm hoping that they can take with them, and that they can readily apply to everyday life, because we're dealing with the human being and development. So, but I think just in terms of educating and giving something to them that they might be able to take and apply to their own lives or in their practice or whatever the case may be, brings excitement to me.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.